Good morning, afternoon, and evening. It's the guy you should believe in. It is your boy Dryzzy, the wrestling plug, and this is Grappling for Positions. Ladies and gentlemen, this is wrestling safe space to debate about anything and everything in a nice, safe, comfy, make you feel good setting. Again, I am your host for the evening, Drizzy, and today we are talking about love stories. It is February. It is all about love. We just passed Valentine's Day. And today we're just trying to figure out what we think is the best love stories in wrestling. But before we just start throwing names and couples out there, I gotta bring my panel in. So starting off with the first lady of Wrestling Republic, I give you our queen, our tribal chief, our wise woman, Megan. How are you doing,
Hello.
Megan?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing well. I love talking about love. I am a Pisces after all, so we love hard, we love strong, and this is going to be a fun topic. So, I'm ready to see what your choices are.
Mm, that's what's up. Next up, I have to send it to my guy out on the West Coast, the wise man of Wrestling Republic, and he wouldn't admit it, but he is a lover boy. I give you the good brother Clark Taylor. Clark, how are you doing?
I'm fired up to be here. As always, honored to be on the very first episode of Grappling for Position. This show's been a long time coming. I'm stoked about it. Happy late Valentine's Day. Of course, you gotta love love. How could you not? I'm a softie at heart, no doubt about it. A good old romance rom com, right up my alley. I'm excited to get into this and let's come up with a good list here.
Yes, yes. It's like well, we need something lighthearted, something to just make you feel good and everything. We're not trying to do nothing crazy. We have all types of crazy arguments in wrestling every day about who's the best of wrestler, who's the best fighter, who's the best this, who's the most violent, what's the most crazy thing. We very seldomly ever get these. I don't want to call it sappy, but you just kind of touch the feels for a sec. But before we get into creating our list, there are five rules that we must follow before we do anything else. Rule number one, it ain't real glass, so don't cry me a river. Wrestling is a form of art in theater, not to be taken to the point where of real violence. We are adults capable of having a healthy conversation, so no personal attacks. Rule number two, closed mouths don't get fed. Feel free to voice your opinion. Chances are you're not the only one that feels that way. The only thing that matters is you getting your suggestions out there. Never know. What you might think is ridiculous, somebody else might believe as well. Number three, loud and wrong. Hear each other out. Do not talk over each other. Just because you're loud does not mean you are right. Please respect each other. Number four, time limit draws. There are certain topics that we could talk about forever and ever and ever. But to keep it down, as one of the panelists for today, I'm also a moderator and I will be watching time. So we stay under a good time. When I say it's time to move on, we're probably going to have to move on. And number five, the last one. There are a few names that we will not speak of due to the act that we cannot separate art from the artist. These are not debatable, and this is a Wrestling Republic rule, so there are no ifs, ands, or buts. We will not say those names. Everybody got it?
What are the names?
Well, we can't say them.
We can't say them. See,
What
you
in-
trying to get us?
no, no. Well, I'm just saying, like, well, if we don't know the names, then
I
we
think
won't
you can
know not to
guess.
say them.
I'll type the two I think They are in the chat.
Okay.
A lot of them are for things that we definitely do know. We have a lot of rabid tendencies, things
Yes.
like rabid,
Yes, yes.
yeah. So this is also not to be confused with names that we don't want to say, like Hulk Hogan.
Right.
We can say his name, we just don't want to. But yeah,
Right.
Amen.
in fact,
Amen.
we'll probably say it today. I really am not 100% sure, but all right, love stories. We have 10 spots. Megan, I believe in ladies first. Do you have a suggestion of who you think should be on this list and where do you think we should put it?
Oh, um, okay. We're gonna start off kind of strongly, and the first couple I think should be on the top of the list is Triple H and Stephanie.
A
That
classic.
is classic. I mean, what speaks love more than driving an unconscious woman to a little small white chapel in Vegas and marrying her, where the pastor don't realize that your bride to be is unconscious, but you still allow them to get married, and then on the day of her actual wedding she find out she's already married. So I mean, that just speaks, true wedded bliss.
That is absolutely a great choice to start off with.
There's almost nothing
And
funnier too, by the way, than the fact that she was going to marry Test. Like we all forget,
Yes.
like it was a love triangle in some ways. It was Test first.
You can't marry him because you're already married to me.
honestly, is that doing? I feel like it's kind of doing her. It was doing her a favor because what was her name going to be? Stephanie McMahon Test? Like
Yeah.
that Stephanie
Uh,
Test or like Test
Jose,
didn't have a nice name.
No.
no, and and a couple of years ago, SMH definitely was her initials. Now we know it as Shake My Head, but the
Yeah.
original
Yep.
SMH was Stephanie McMahon Helmsley. It
Yep.
carried, it meant something, it still means something.
Oh yeah.
So I definitely feel like, you know, and it kind of
M-
it blends the kayfabe a little bit.
Plus,
Yeah,
it's an important couple when they have a whole era named after them. The
they
McMahon
do.
Helmsley era. They've got
They do.
they have their
Yes,
own whole entire era.
And I want to say it's
absolutely.
also one of the longer stories because it went for a few years.
It
Uh,
did.
When
that
they're still married.
Yeah, well, in real life, yes. That's art imitating life. They
Exactly.
definitely could not separate art from the artist. But
Right.
where would you put this on our list?
Uh, well, I'm gonna be biased, and I like to win, so I definitely have to put them as the top. I mean, from the storyline to the fact that they are now sort of running the company at this point together, the fact that she has gone from the boss's daughter to now the boss's wife. Um, Her presence is still there, even though she's not there, as much as she used to be. But just the ideal of that whole time period, watching her grow older, watching him as he transitioned from a wrestler to now the boss. Um, it just, I feel like it was a love story that um it will last for
Hey,
years to come.
a
You
tale is
know,
out
e-
of a tale of out of time, as you say.
Yes.
yes, because I'm sure eventually one, two, or maybe all three of their daughters will, find their way in the company as well and continue the
Ooh,
legacy of the
that's
Levesque
that's
That's
gonna be a
interesting.
sister.
crazy Sunday dinner. Hey, Dad, how did your mom meet? Uh it was a
Drive to your
dark
wedding chapel.
it was a dark night in a like that.
I'm not really sure how we met. Like
Yeah. I can see Stephanie now. I don't really recall that night all too much. I see videos, but I distinctly don't remember. too much
Oh,
of
it's
that
too
night.
funny.
That's hilarious. Okay, so you had, I believe this is a top five dead or alive story. I didn't have it at number one, but you kind of made me want to push it up there now. I want to put it at number two.
Same.
What do
Okay.
you think, Clark? So, what was
I,
it?
I I was about to say it's either one or two. There's another one that I could see being one that's just super classic, and that's the only reason. But I would be cool with the two. I don't want to give away the other one I'm thinking of just yet, but I would be cool with either of them interchangeably at one or two. I think,
So,
yeah,
so we'll put it at two. That good?
Yes,
yeah.
All
that's
right,
fine.
all right. We will lock in Triple H and Stephanie at number two. All right, Clark. Do you have a suggestion?
So just because we're already kind of on the topic here, and we talked about, I had one that I thought was number one. I think the only one, because it's not the original love story in wrestling, but it's the one when you think wrestling love stories that I think comes up most often, and that is Macho Man Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth. I think it's iconic. It's one of the first wrestling weddings you've ever seen on TV. It's a throwback. That was the only one on my like short list that I have separate that I could see putting above Triple H and Stephanie, just because it's kind of the original.
A true
Okay.
story, a true love story as old as time, and another one that lasted a very long time, with all types of nooks and crannies, and the involvement of Hogan, the involvement of Ric Flair. Like, it,
Mhm.
I think Luger was Lex Luger involved in it as well one time.
Well, down the road, that's where it gets a little
It was
dicey.
a little
That's where
funky.
you might want to put Triple H and Stephanie at one over that one. Now that I kind of think about it, Luger makes the story a little because of
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of the art imitating life thing, Luger and Miss Elizabeth, as we know in real life, that's what ended up happening.
Yeah.
That was the demise of the real life marriage of Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth.
Mm.
Or it
Like,
was, I mean, you don't want to put all the blame on one person, but
yeah,
yeah,
it was like we've seen Dark Side of the Ring, so we know the
yeah, we know what happened.
story.
Right.
Hmm. I don't know. What do you think, Megan?
Um, I mean, it was definitely something that went on before any of us was born. So it's
Mm.
probably something that our parents was watching, and maybe it was even compared to the Luke and Laura wedding from General Hospital, because there's some weddings that kind of just stands out during that
Mm.
time,
Yes.
or Princess
Yeah.
Diana and Prince
Yes.
Charles, some of those iconic weddings. Um, yeah, when I think of iconic love stories, I would definitely say Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth is up there. Definitely. So you know, I guess it could go above mine as number
You think
one.
it's you think it's a number one?
I, I think it's top five for sure. I mean, now that it's funny
Mm,
because are we stuck with Triple H and Stephanie at two now?
I don't think it's Stucky too. I like Triple H and Stephanie too.
Okay.
Savage and Elizabeth, I always saw as a top five because it wasn't. I guess because after the initial of the mega powers exploding, and we go into the Ric Flair aspect of it, it kind of lost its luster a little bit for me because then
Mhm.
it just seemed like she was just going with whoever was feuding with Savage. But I would definitely say it's top five, but I would say it was five.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think it would be five.
That's fair. Yeah, where would you? Okay. Yeah. I mean, I can go anywhere in the top five with that one.
Hmm. What,
Yeah.
I was, yeah.
are you thinking, Megan?
Um yeah, I can see it as, I would say four.
You think four?
Four's
Yeah.
fair. I can think of two that you would put it like
In
one,
between.
three. Yeah.
Right.
Like I said, these aren't locked in, so if we ever decide we want to move anybody, we can.
Slide some
Okay.
around.
So right
Cool.
now we're saying 5-4. I'll put it at four for right now, and we will. we may revisit it if anything else comes back up.
I
So
was just
Right.
laughing at
Savage.
myself on my own list. I saw one on my own list that I can't believe I wrote down.
All right. Savage and Miss Liz at 4 currently. And we will I have a suggestion. Now this is a little bit more on the comedy aspect of it. My bad. And Liz. I have to add to stuff as we do it. All right. I have a comedy aspect of it. And just because it led to some of the best TV in my eyes, I am going Billy and Chuck. Probably one of the best moments in wrestling was the wedding of Billy and Chuck, and everything that led up to Billy and Chuck. They got matching tights, they got matching headbands, they had Rico coordinating them. They were like stretching together. They
Yeah.
literally proposed it like, I don't want to team with anybody else but you. It was a beautiful thing.
Also, isn't that when Eric Bischoff did the
Yes,
prosthetic face thing? That is the most iconic. That's like the part
yes.
that I remember the most. And it ended up just being a big 3-minute warning squash, but it was
The
all worth it
dub,
in the end because it
Yeah.
was so funny.
the double. It was a double swerve, I believe, because boom, Billy and Chuck aren't gay. What?
Yeah.
Even though
Mhm.
all things pointed to, yeah, you guys are gay, and then 3 minute warning, like a double swerve. Like, this is absolutely crazy.
Yes. That
I think
was
the best line is when Billy looks at Rico and goes, "I thought this was a publicity stunt."
Like, it was such good shit.
It's
yeah,
class.
it was.
Well, what are you guys thinking about Billy and Chuck?
I would put that at 10, but it has to make the list. But just because obviously they don't finally go through with the marriage technically, so I don't know.
Um,
But it is such a good one; it has to be on the list.
Hmm. What are you thinking, Megan?
it. If I go by the entertainment aspects of it, I will put it a little higher.
Hmm.
Um, I'll probably put it at 8.
At 8.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
I agree with an 8. Yeah. So Billy and Chuck at 8, and just absolutely hilarious.
It
Just
Absolutely.
because
was.
of all the vignettes they even had the pose off with Tori and Stacy, and they were doing the exact same poses that Tori and Stacy doing. Like when you see
Mhm.
two women doing it,
Right.
it's like yay. Then you see them doing like okay. Well, I'm pretty sure there were some women that did enjoy it because they were both very. I don't think anybody really understood how big Billy Gunn is until you see him in AEW, and Chuck was the
Yes.
same size as him. So
Oh
those
yeah,
are
Yeah.
two huge guys.
really
Yeah.
big dudes, no
Like,
doubt about it.
all right, Megan, what you got?
Uh, China and Eddie.
Oh,
China and
Nice.
Eddie. Just the China always gave off this presence that she was a woman that just stood on her own. She fought men, she fought women. At one point she was like the master of Cat,
hmm,
who you don't really see or hear from too much nowadays. And just I don't know, it was something about Eddie that just tugged at her heartstrings, and just seeing them two come out, and he always had a bouquet of flowers that he gave her, and treated her like the woman that she was. It wasn't until gold came in between them, a title, and a title opportunity that he ultimately took from her, but she forgave him with a puppy. He gave her a puppy, and that took all the pain away. But ultimately, yeah, her and Eddie, they just couldn't hang. Like she just he showed his true side. So,
hmm,
even though the two of them are no longer with us. I just felt like
Oh,
that was just something that, just always stood out to me
It,
watching wrestling as a child and two together.
it's interesting too because if you say China's name talking about old wrestling, the first thing that comes to my mind is usually the DX era, even though
Hmm.
and she was with Triple H during that time. But if you say love stories involving China, my brain defaults to Eddie because the work with the couple aspect of it was so great. I
mm,
think
Right.
about that before I think of her and Triple H, who were actually together in real life, right? Like,
mm,
and I mean, Eddie and China technically weren't. Obviously, the list is on screen related, but it is interesting. I think it deserves a spot high on the list because it is so memorable,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
and
it was just something, between them. And you saw, she wasn't like a what you would consider the most feminine of
sh-
women compared
she
to
got
those
to
who was on.
she got to be that soft girl.
She did. He
Like
he
you,
he was he was able to like bring that out of her until the
like,
end. And
It
then he
and I
also
think
realized he pissed off the wrong woman.
it also
yes,
elevated him a ton too because it was sort of like the beginning of him after breaking away from the radicals or whatever, right? And that group and whatnot, and not necessarily being in tag action all the time. It elevated both China
mm,
and Eddie in a positive way for sure.
mm, yeah, it did. Um, like I said, it did give her a chance to be that soft girl that we never got to see from China. She always had to be the muscle, no show, no immerse, no emotions, always be mad, always want to hurt somebody. Like
Hmm.
we got to see China's personality, and she was really a sweet person, which we always
Yeah,
heard about her in backstage. And getting to see that, you
Yeah.
gotta love it.
absolutely.
Where do we put this?
What, what do you think, Megan? This seems almost like a top, maybe number five.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Number five.
We're thinking
Yes.
five for this.
I like
Five
five.
All right,
for China and
five for
Eddie.
Eddie and China.
I didn't
That
realize how much fun this game would be.
like, cause you get to go down memory lane and like
It's
you like,
awesome.
damn,
Yeah.
I remember this. It's like I
Well, I'm
remember
literally
that.
sitting here like I can make. I'm gonna get more suggestions than just the next one, but I'm like I keep looking at my list and back like I don't even know which one I want to use.
Well, Clark, it's in your hands. What you want to do?
Okay, I'm going with this one just because it's one of my all-time favorites and often overlooked. But Gold Dust and Marlena, one of the
That is a
best
good
wrestling
one.
love stories of all time. It's just a crazy one. They were crazy, the whole thing. I mean, you can sometimes people associate Gold Dust with Luna as well, and of
Hmm.
course that was a different time. But the classic Marlena with the cigar in the director's chair and everything, it was just
Mhm.
absolutely brilliant. And perfect love story and one of the best like wrestling manager wrestler combos in
Hmm.
history. I think underrated. I mean, the cigar in the director's chair will never get old from Marlena. It was just brilliant because it was so unique compared to anything else you saw at the time. Um,
Aesthetically, that was an amazing.
yeah,
The aesthetics of Gold Dust probably needs to be studied by film because that was
seriously.
really good.
Yeah.
And it's so funny knowing Dustin Rhodes better now, later in his career, like the person behind the gold dust paint and everything. It is pretty amazing how well he played that character because it's so in contrast to his real life personality. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? He was amazing at that character. That's crazy, crazy, crazy good dedication to the art.
Where
Okay.
do where do we put this?
I'm
Because
gonna
as good as
say
it is, I like it. At the moment where we're at, I would put it at 10.
I think so. I was about to say 9 or
10.
10. I've got one in mind that I'm gonna name later that I definitely think is 10 now that we're here, but I'm cool with it at 10 for now.
So we're going
10
with
is
10.
cool. 10 is cool.
Yeah. There's one I'm gonna say later, and I think both of you will look at me and go, "Yeah, that's probably 10."
All right. All right. Balls in my court. I have one that is a little bit of a nah. it's probably this generation's best love story, and it is Index, Indy Hartwell, and Dexter Loomis.
Oh,
Oh, that's a great
yeah.
one.
That was probably some of the best storytelling NXT had ever done. Didn't involve belts. It didn't involve any type of disrespect or anything. It was truly watching a really good wrestler and with two really good wrestlers and actually making do with something that nobody has ever known to do. Dexter Loomis's character, which also in TNA was Samuel Shaw, pretty much the same character. No, it's one of the hardest book gimmicks to like actually book and make interesting. And NXT did that. And to put Indy Hartwell and just in fact, I think what also makes it so great is because of Papa Johnny, Mama Candice, and Brother Theory in the background who are against it. It's almost like a Romeo Juliet type thing, and you gotta love the entertainment value that they all had in it. Dexter had an immense amount of charisma without saying a single word. I'm not even sure I know what that man's voice sounds like. And then
Right.
Indy, her just being able to fall into that girly girl, the goofy theory. Johnny and Candace are the perfect unsupporting parents, and then at the end of it, after the wedding, they all just try to fall in love and become one giant family.
The
Uh,
fact that they got an entire arena to just go crazy for Dexter Loomis speaking for the first time was made it all worth it. That was one of my favorite things. Was just like he said like one word and everyone
and
just went nuts.
oh, we can't forget about the hatchet too,
Yeah, the
because
hatchet.
everybody was
Yes.
like we're not sure he's a killer. We've seen like he shows killer vibes, but we're not sure he's a killer. And then he shows the hatchet at the wedding, like yeah, he's a killer. Yep.
Yep, it's so good. That's one of the most well done weddings I think in recent memory when it comes to wrestling. Like wedding segments always can get a little off the rails. You never know.
Yeah.
I was at one live myself. Not I've been to more than one wedding in real life, but at one wrestling wedding I was at live. We probably won't name that one on this list in particular, but it was a mess.
Mm. Okay. Well, I had missed that whole part of their relationship. I just remember when he came back and he had came back for her and just seeing the reaction of everyone when they saw. I think that was just after she had won the NXT women's title.
Hmm.
And he had came to help her win.
Yeah.
You could just see the look on her face. She was so shocked to see him and stuff. So um so I'm a little late to the party when it comes down to their love story, but you could tell, she could reel in a man like that, a man of action and no words, then I feel like, they were a good match together. So um yeah, I would definitely put that at maybe a 6.
Maybe a six.
I think
Mm,
six or seven is what I was going to say. I'm cool with six. Yeah,
No, I can do
what do you
six.
think?
I can do six. Oh,
yeah.
Index at six. It's funny saying index. I'm not talking about cards.
Index. And it was good though because that was another classic like like the Brangelina, but Index was one of those great where you do the combined name thing. Like
Yes.
that made it even more memorable, and I think that's helps it get higher on the list, don't you think?
Yes. Like
Yeah,
it's such a name that goes together. Yep.
Yeah.
the index, yeah. Well, I would have put it I would have put it higher, but we already have Liz and Macho at 4 unless you want to.
Yeah, I think we stick with that where
Mm,
it's at because I would say I think Liz and Macho is so historic and iconic. It's hard. I have a hard time putting Index ahead of it.
All right, Megan, the ball is in your court.
um okay, well this one I learned more about their relationship in an autobiography that he released, and that is John Moxley and Renee Paquette. Now, I didn't see them two get together when they was in both still in WWE, even though I saw clips of, I think, when he was out with her family and he was talking about he wanted to play Human Frogger, was gonna like jump out in the middle of traffic, and her mother just lost her mind.
Ah,
Like she thought that was the funniest thing in the world. And it's like, I mean, it might be a little, you might want to go check up on him. But just
that was one of
listening to his story and how he, describes how his wife is, and how they got together, and how she likes to cook like really fancy things, and he's just a regular guy. And even his little it was like a partial paragraph just talking about how to make the perfect sandwich and stuff, and then leading up to the pregnancy and the birth of their daughter. She's, I'll say this. If you're scared of John, you got to be more scared of Renee, because this woman can handle somebody like him. So I know, you know, him, he's on the surface. Her
mm,
is more on the inside. So you might want to, keep your eyes on her. But I definitely see them two as a match made
mm.
in
Absolutely.
wrestling heaven, I guess.
Wrestling heaven. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
They're one of the more hmm. I'll say subdued. They're very subtle about how they present their relationship
Yeah.
because they want it to be for them, and I
Yeah.
absolutely love and respect that.
They're so likable too. Like
Yes,
it really is like it's one of those couples you're just like, I'm really happy for them. Like, you know what I mean? Like
so
Right.
it's like
I always be wondering how in those early days of them together, and when you have to interview unstable Dean Ambrose,
yeah,
how do you do that with a straight face? Because he just be doing stuff like
Yeah.
so true.
he's like, if I'm gonna do this, I'm at least gonna have fun with it. So and
Absolutely.
Definitely.
at that time, I think he was a baby face, so it was even more cartoonish than what it
It was.
normally is. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's very theatrical. I don't
No
know
uh,
if
doubt
it's
about
always
it.
intentional though. I think it's just who he is.
I think
But
that's kind of just the way he was born, like almost, yeah, like that's just his
as
personality.
a theater,
hmm
I'm a theater kid. You go there.
Yeah.
Theater kids in a relationship are probably the worst people to be around because we're gonna do whatever just to bother you.
yeah, definitely. So I'll I'll definitely put them at a 7.
Yeah, I like that. Seven's a really good spot, I think. Because it
I'll
kind of
put, I'll put them. Okay, who said 7? All right, that
seven.
Yeah.
is Mox and Renee. Two E's.
Exactly.
And if you're watching this and it's not being typed the exact same way that I'm doing it, ha ha ha, we pre-recorded this. But
Oh,
all right, Clark, the ball is in your court.
okay. I'm looking at our list that we've got so far, and I'm gonna go with my final comedic one I suggest for the day. Because I did say I had one that I thought might need to be 10, and that is Mark Henry and May Young.
Ooh, woo,
Oh man, it's
What's
it's
that?
ridiculous, but it's memorable.
very
Oh.
one of the most memorable things to ever happen on a Monday Night Raw.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely wild. What a time to be a wrestling fan then. But I mean, yeah, that I if it doesn't make the list, I understand, but I do think it makes it for a funny number 10.
I don't think it's a 10.
Oh, you think it's higher?
I like it at like 8 or 9.
That's fair. I'm cool with that. Nine's fine. Nine's available.
We did it for a
Right.
while. I like it at like a 9. What do you think,
Yeah.
lady?
Okay.
You like it at
I,
9?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
This
We
is
could do
absolutely
that.
the graphics for this are gonna be hilarious. Mark Henry
fantastic. Yeah,
Oh,
Mark Henry
and
May.
May Young at number 9.
oh my God.
It's too funny.
But this is what I said. The more ridiculous, you don't know who's thinking what.
Exactly.
Yes.
And speaking of thinking what, I am going to go to the land of TNA because for the few weddings they have had, one of the best that I have absolutely loved since I seen it was the Braxton Sutter Alley Cat. Well, she's not Alley. She wasn't Alley Cat. She's Alley at that point in time. Braxton Sutter and Laurel Van Ness, who we know as Chelsea Green.
Hmm.
This was a part of a very long storyline that had to do with um Allison Kay, I don't think Christy Hemme was it. Maria Kanellis Bennett.
No.
So much was going on in it, and it all ended in a giant brawl that ended up with Braxton Sutter stealing. I mean, not that. Allie stealing Braxton Sutter from Chelsea Green, and Chelsea Green and her dramatics makes it everything, and also led to probably one of TNA's best characters ever in Laurel Van Ness, the hot mess.
That I was gonna say that was pre-hot mess. That's what led into the hot
That's
mess.
what
Just
made the
chronologically
hot
right.
mess.
Yeah, okay. That's what I was trying to remember off the top of my head. I wasn't 100% sure. I
Hmm.
mean, that is a great suggestion. Um,
Ooh.
as far as where on the list, that's tough.
As I said, this is where we start getting into the tough ones because we started filling stuff out, and it's like, ooh, we might have to
Yeah,
bump stuff.
because I would have to put this one like
I
I
don't see it
almost
in I don't see it in top five. It is a personal favorite of mine, but it's not top five.
So we have to move a top. We have to move someone
We
six
can
and
either
ten up one.
move someone up, move someone out. It's down. What do you think?
I think we could if I was gonna put it anywhere, I would put it like at 8 and almost slide everything down.
So we want to bump
Does that
We
make
Savage
sense?
getting rid of
and
Gold Dust and Mark.
it would
I guess it's
get rid of Goldust and Marlena.
we could. Although Goldust and Marlena was pretty I like that one a lot, but I don't know. It's up to you guys. I don't mind bumping that one off the list too. We could easily do that.
I say
You know,
let's bump that one off.
Which
let's do
one?
that.
All right.
All good.
So no more Goldust. Number 10 is now the Sutter family mess.
Boom.
His name is Braxton Sutter. Well, it was Braxton Sutter at that point in time. He is currently now known as the Blade, so we're gonna call it the Blade family
Right, it's
drama.
the blade. Yeah. There you go.
Okay.
All right,
All right.
all right, Megan, you are now up.
Okay. My next choice will be the very complicated love triangle between a Matt Hardy,
Ooh,
Adam Copeland, and Lita.
all right. I have a question about this one before we get into it because I had this was also the first thing that I thought of as well. But I wasn't sure if Kane was involved in this one 100%
That's what I
or if
He
was
this was
was.
wondering.
another
So
story.
remember
That's what
earlier
I
when
was
I
trying
mentioned
to.
I had been to one wrestling wedding?
Hmm.
It was the wedding of Kane and Lita. That was the one
Yeah.
wrestling
So
wedding I was
Kane,
ever there to live
Kane
for.
kind of lingers in that story too. But I guess the only reason why I focused on Matt and Adam is because like
They're more
these
the
are
main
men that
story.
she dealt with outside of wrestling too.
Hmm.
And there's the whole story about
Yeah.
how her and Adam got together. So, um, yeah, just anyone who was watching wrestling, um, you always loved watching the Hardys and Lita, and then finding out that Matt and Lita was together, and it just worked. He always came out to protect her, especially during the time of the severe neck injury that she had and coming back. And then all of a sudden, you kind of see like this turn between them. And then she's with Edge, and the whole bed scene in the middle of the ring, and
Oh,
The
the
last
birth
match.
of
mhm.
rated R, the
Mhm.
rated R superstar.
Superstar.
And just I can only imagine what the dirt sheets would have been like back in the
Oh,
day, if they exist
Ooh, they
back in the
would have
day, with
been
all the stuff
messy.
that had.
what's amazing is when everything popped off, they had that show Bite This. That was that real short radio show that was like
Mhm.
outside of kayfabe. And remember, Matt Hardy called in.
Yep.
Called, and he chewed her ass out. He chewed her out. And
Crazy.
you know, it, the man was hurt. He almost lost his job, or he did lose his job, and then
He
they
did.
pretty much,
They're
we
like, ooh, we
want
shouldn't have done
Cody
that.
him way back into the story, but you could tell he was very distraught, very heartbroken over what happened. But it it was a very serious time for them, the three of them. So where in the list do you think that goes?
That's top five.
I think I've got it personally at number one because I think of all of the ones on this list, it produced the best wrestling on top of the drama, on top of it being super memorable. I mean, it produced that Edge and Matt Hardy's series of matches, whether it be the street fight, that image of him tied up in the ropes, just like about to
Yeah.
cry when in the ladder match is unbelievable. The leg drop off the cage is
Mhm.
so memorable. Not to mention, like, if it's just if we're including mostly the Edge and Lita aspect, the Mania match against Mick Foley, the
Mhm.
ECW one night stand match that she's involved in, the I have a hard time not putting this one at one. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I think that was one of the few love stories where you couldn't tell if the matches were shoots or not.
seriously.
You felt like they were really fighting. Like this
Hmm.
wasn't for entertainment. Like Matt saw Edge and Edge saw Matt, and they
Just
really
on
was,
site.
yeah, So um yeah, whichever number y'all decide. I'm cool
I,
with it. I just know it was a monumental type
Yeah,
of thing.
that in my eyes is always at that it's one of I think it's one of wrestling's best storylines overall, just because of how
yeah,
real it felt real because it was to a certain extent, but
exactly. It was
well,
so
that's
serious.
it's definitely a one for me.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
All right, with our list just about full, you want a recap of what we have at the moment?
Let's do it.
So
Yes.
at 10, we have the Blade Family Issues. At number 9, Mark Henry and Mae Young. Number 8, Billy and Chuck. Number 7, Renee and Mox. 6, Index. 5, Eddie and China. 4, Savage and Liz. And number 3 is open as we have number 2, Stephanie and Triple H, and 1, Lita.
Okay. So, um, how many other choices do y'all just want to go through the last? Because I have one more
Yeah,
choice. Go through the last and then see if we're taking anything out or adding anything in.
yeah. I've got like two more that I would even suggest, but I'm totally cool with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
actually two. I guess is what I would say. And
Okay, then it's your turn, Clark.
Yep. You're up.
two. Want me to just suggest both, and then we'll kind of discuss
Yeah.
from there.
Let's do
The
that.
the two that I have like left that I wanted to maybe include. First, I'm going to go with Sensational Sherry and Shawn Michaels. I think it's an underrated one. Great, great,
Okay.
great.
Mhm.
I mean, if you remember correctly, she sang the original
Yes.
HBK entrance music. It's her voice, not his. Um, and that was like fresh off of him leaving the Rockers, and of course,
Mhm.
the famous barbershop scene where he throws Marty's head through the glass. It's a good one. The other one that I did want to suggest though as well, because I just think it's also memorable and good. Wait, where did it go on my list? I just lost it. I had it right
Uh-oh.
here.
Uh-oh.
Um oh no, I've got it. I'm sorry. Mandy Rose Notice is
Ah,
the other one that I want to suggest just for
Oh,
fun. because it was like, yeah. I mean, it's a classic. It finally pays off. It provided a legitimate WrestleMania moment too.
Mhm.
Think
It
about
is.
that. Like, and it, yeah, I think that one is as good as any. And it also it happened a lot during the beginning of the pandemic, if you think about
Mhm.
it, and it provided so much entertainment at a time when we really needed it. I think that makes it a little extra special in my eyes.
Yeah.
I think it's that I love that one just because it kills the stigma that the fat guy can't get the girl.
Exactly.
Like he was walking around with whole hams and turkeys and stuff, and she loved it. I think she gifted this man a ham.
It was hilarious.
Like you like who knew Mandy liked the big boys? Ain't
Honest
nothing
to
wrong with
goodness,
it.
if you think about it, it created so much momentum. It probably won Otis the Money in the Bank briefcase.
It
If you
won,
really
yes.
think about it, it sprungboard Otis into the, and not only that, it sprungboard Mandy Rose into an NXT title run. Right?
Yep.
Obviously, we
Mhm.
didn't see beyond that, but like it elevated both, which
Hmm.
is really cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
I love it.
Hmm.
What do you have, Megan?
Uh, my last choice is, I feel bad because now that I thought about it, I said maybe I should have mentioned these two. But I said CM Punk and AJ Lee.
Mm.
Just the whole, she liked him, she chased after him, he wasn't really like feeling her like that. But again, it's just like the Renee and John Moxley. When you like read her biography, you realize what's really going on behind the scenes. Oh, the kiss that you saw on TV, you're not supposed to slip tongue, but he accidentally slipped tongue, accidentally, deliberately, and or the time that she didn't say bye to him after a show. And so he ignored her the whole following week, just being spiteful,
Mm.
how men can be. Um, and just the fact that these two are still married together 10 years later, he still speaks very highly of his wife. He still, um, anything that he does, he makes sure that he throws her name out there to let it be known that he still, he still sees her as the love of his life. So
Mm.
Punky and AJ,
Punk
and
and
they're
AJ is a good
two
one.
badass girls,
Yes, they're bad
Roxanne
kids.
and Cora.
Yes.
No doubt.
Yes, those are their kids. Hmm.
Absolutely.
So between those three, which one would you put on this list?
All three so good.
It is.
I think the Punk AJ Lee one probably belongs the most at number 3 logically. If that
Hmm.
makes sense. But I don't know. I could also put the other two on the list elsewhere, but I don't know if the two suggestions I made are good enough for the number 3 spot, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I think they're good
Yeah.
enough to make the list, but I don't know if they're good enough for the 3.
What are you thinking, Megan?
Um, be honest with you, I forgot what was the second one that
The
Clark said.
second, the second one was Mandy and
Oh,
Otis.
Mandy noticed, and
Right, right,
then
right, 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 right.
Sherry and Sean. Yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
well, I like Mandy and Otis. I like them two together. I thought that was really, really funny. And like Clark said, it was definitely during that time of the pandemic where, everybody was locked in the house. That's when I really started watching wrestling again because, you couldn't go out. So you had to like stay home. And, I do remember this one specific scene where he like jumps in the pool and he comes out and and she's just like ooh and stuff. So I feel like they should be on the list.
Okay.
I feel like that should be on the list.
Between AJ and Mandy, which one would you want to do? Because I'm gonna throw one more bone in there.
okay.
Do
I
you want
mean,
to pick between those two first, or you want to hear the bone?
I want to hear the bone first.
Yeah.
The bone I'm gonna throw in there is probably another one of a SmackDown staple in wrestling. Don Marie and Al Wilson.
Oh man, that's a great one.
Mm.
That one, the twists, the turns, the death.
The
The death.
death.
Like Don Marie literally fucked that man to death.
Yeah,
She
she
did.
killed him.
She
She killed
did.
him.
And
and
then
it
had the nerve to fight his daughter at the funeral, knock the
Yeah,
casket over.
is
unbelievable.
some of again we talk about entertainment. That was peak entertaining. That was peak entertainment.
It
Yes,
was.
yes.
So between those three, which
Mm.
one only one can make the list? Which one are you putting?
Um, I
It's hard
think,
not to be biased.
yeah, it really is. I don't. I think all three are good. Is the problem, honestly.
Mhm.
Can someone be
I'd probably
taken
go
off? Because
Who do we want to take off?
I would,
maybe Mark and May. We can get rid
You
of
want
Mark
to
and
take
May
Mark
for
and
one
May
of
off?
those.
Okay, we'll
Yeah,
take Mark and May. It is now
just because that one
officially.
was funny, but it's not like
I mean,
it's
we could have kept, no, we could have kept Mark and May. I would have
Huh? You want to keep it?
keep going.
taken,
Okay.
I would have taken John and Renee off.
You know, the only reason that makes sense is because John and Renee are more a real life couple than like even really on screen. Like the whole thing didn't play out on screen as much as some of the other ones on the list, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see that too. Because Mox and Renee is a really good one, but it just it if you're looking at the rest of the list, it like the
Yeah,
rest of the list is mostly played out, you know,
Mm-hmm.
on the shows.
So we want to take Mark and Mox and Renee off.
Yeah, let's do that.
yeah.
All right. So the seventh spot is now open because they have been taken off. Who are we putting there?
I like that for either Dawn and Al Wilson or Otis and Mandy if we're gonna go with Punk and AJ at 3.
So are we for sure putting Punk and AJ at 3?
I don't know. Yeah,
What are you thinking, Megan?
Um,
yeah, I think
yeah,
so.
I guess, right? I
Yeah,
guess.
logically, I'm trying to.
So
Yeah,
Punk and AJ at 3.
boom.
And now who we putting at 7?
I call it a coin flip between the other two that we had the between Al Wilson and Don Marie and Otis and
Mandy
Mandy,
and
but
Otis.
I
I
guess,
would lean Otis Mandy.
okay, because I was going to say, it goes down to which one made the biggest impact, I guess. Which
If
one would that be?
if we were
I
to
think
go
Or the
back
most
impact,
memorable?
memorable definitely would be Al and
yeah,
John Marie. If we
Hmm.
go I can't say that Otis and Mandy had any impact because although it led to all those things, it also ended abruptly just because they
yeah,
took Mandy off SmackDown.
that's very true.
They didn't really pay it off. They
Yeah,
took they took Mandy off SmackDown.
and
They fired old Tucker, and then they gave away the
yeah,
money in the bank briefcase. So
and Don and Al is one of those like things that's just timeless. Like as soon as you bring it up, everyone knows what you're talking about.
hmm,
I could easily. I have no problem with that one at 7.
so you good
I
with
think
that?
that's
All right. Let's get this Al Wilson
Don Marie.
and Don Murray.
How do you think they pitched that in the locker room? We've
I
got this
I
idea,
wanna hear the
Don.
backstory about that one.
Listen,
Like Corey, we're gonna let this girl do your dad.
if we could get Brian, what's his name, Brian Gerwitz
Mm,
on
Yes,
the show,
Gertz. I think it's
I'm
Gertz.
sure he could tell us a
Yeah,
lot because he been there. He was there from the whole Edge and Christian 7 seconds of flash photography. Like he was
mhm.
around during that time, so I know he had
Have you
door.
read his book, by the way? It's really good. It's
Yeah.
really good.
all right, we have our list, but just before we end it for us and go through the final list for the show, you got the honorable mentions. that aren't gonna make this list, but it's just nice to reminisce.
I've got a couple.
What you got, Clark?
Nydia and Jamie Noble
Yes,
is a
Yeah.
classic.
very good one.
Um, and then while we're on the topic, just because it's SmackDown, it reminds me John Morrison and Melina,
Yes, another good one.
100%.
That was
Oh,
one
who
born in
else?
LVW. I was around for that
Yes. Oh yeah.
one.
Liv Morgan and Lana.
Ooh, Liv Morgan, Lana, Bobby Lashley, and Rusev. Jesus Christ, that that was a throwback to Jerry Springer TV right there.
Tajiri and Tori Wilson.
Yes,
Yeah, that one.
actually,
There's
Um,
there's a couple of AEW ones too. Christian and Mama Wayne,
yep. If you
and
count
I
it, yep.
and I had another one, but I cannot find it now. It went away. Oh well,
I
there was that
mean,
one.
who else? I'm trying to think of.
See, that's not a big thing to AEW does. They don't do a lot of love stories.
Mm-mm.
Like, what you got, Megan?
the other Tory in X Pop.
Yes,
Yes.
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 Um, don't shoot me, but that whole Trish and Mr. McMahon story that
Woof.
was something. The
That was
divorce, Linda being comatose or incapacitated.
Mhm.
The
yes.
the the mud match between Stephanie and Trish in the barn, and then the spanking match between them two, and the
Unbelievable.
ultimate match between Vince and his daughter, or Vince and Shane, and Linda waking up out of her comatose state, and
Mm-hmm.
layers.
Crazy. I've
Trish
got another.
barking in the ring. It was a lot. It was a
Yes.
lot.
Ooh.
Um, I've got another two classics that I actually kind of forgot. One of
Mm.
them is like a actually pretty good one. Is Tommy Dreamer and Beulah, obviously with
Yes.
the
A
Raven
great one.
situation.
Yes.
I forgot that one when we were doing the list, but another one that people forget ever happened, but is actually classic and hilarious to me is Spike Dudley and Molly Holly.
Oh, that was
Oh
Romeo and
yeah,
Juliet.
that
That
was
was
Yep.
definitely
Romeo and
Romeo and
Juliet.
Juliet.
Yep.
Um,
100%.
I guess I'm trying to think TNA wise. I guess Steph Delander, of course, and PCO.
Yes.
Um,
I hate how that ended though.
Yeah.
yeah, she divorced him and took his belt.
Yep.
Um,
um,
yeah.
Eric Young and ODB got married using the Knockouts tag titles.
That's right. That's right.
Oh,
That's right. It's a classic. I'm trying to think where I'm
There
missing
is
some.
another tale as old as time. Jeff Jarrett, Deborah McMichaels, and Steve Mongo McMichaels.
Oh
That
yes.
issue.
How is Jeff Jarrett in so many love triangles? You
mm.
notice that?
Jeff got that juice.
When didn't Deborah end up with Stone Cold after that too?
Yeah.
For time? Yeah. That's an interesting one for sure. And then I mean, I guess if you could add Jeff Jarrett and Karen Jarrett to that
Jarrett
list
too. Yep.
of honorable.
Yeah.
Oh man.
All right.
But of course, yeah. I guess others like, Trinity and
Ooh,
Jimmy,
Yep.
Bianca and Montez,
hmm
um, Becky and Seth.
You know it's crazy. None of us said anything about Dom and Rhea or
Oh
Dom and Liv.
Diamond
yeah.
Live. Yeah, that. mm,
I don't know if it would count, but Queen Charmel and Booker T too. We didn't
Yes,
mention is
that
a
was
good
a
one.
good one. That
Yeah,
was a
but I
good
don't know
one.
if that one. I mean, I guess because they, I guess it counts as a love story. Yeah,
It
married.
would, especially after Kurt Angle was like obsessed with her.
Yeah,
Yes, that was wild.
it would.
That's right.
If they never would have took it on screen, I don't think. I think would kind of be in that same era as like a John Moxley
Right.
and Renee, where like yeah, we they did more. They're more of an off screen thing than on screen, but
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh. I completely forgot about Edge and Vicky Guerrero too.
yes,
It happened.
I try
Edge
to
has a
forget
Edge
that.
has a thing for Latinas. Edge has a thing for Latinas.
I
Oh, that's
definitely try
wild.
to
I'm gonna
forget
give
that.
one more, and then we're gonna go to our lock in our list. Beth Phoenix and Santino Marella.
Oh yeah.
That's a great one. I forgot
Peak
all about that.
comedy wrestling, and again, when we talked about earlier with China, showing that softer side.
Mm-mm.
All right, we are ready to lock in our list now. So at 10, we have the Blade family. That is the Blade, currently Allie and Chelsea Green. We're going to use their actual names because it's a lot trying to use TNA names and all that. Number 9, Mark and May Young. Number 8, Billy and Chuck. Number 7, Al Wilson and Don Marie. Number 6, Index, Indy Hartwell and Dexter Loomis. Number 5, Eddie and China. Number 4, Savage, Macho Man Savage and Miss Elizabeth. Number 3, AJ Lee and Punk and CM Punk. Number 2, Triple H and Stephanie. And number 1, Matt Hardy, Lita, and Edge. We good with this list?
It's a great list.
All right. Mr. Editor Person, we have locked in our list. We're gonna act like it's not being, but yeah, we have locked in, we have locked in our list. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for being a part of this epic first episode. Megan Clark, I thank you all immensely. Thank you all for watching. And if you are a part of what we call the Wrestling Republic, make sure you rock with us. That means you checking out everything on the network from Sold Separately, Take It to the Table, Off the Air, Sunday Spotlight, also the flagship show, the daily broadcast. I'm not gonna go through the tabs because that's not my stick.
Oh, good.
Because I can't do it like Clark does or like Ben does. It's impossible. But this you can add this into your rotation. We are coming back every couple of weeks with different lists. We might do something lighthearted. We might do something serious. We might even not do a list where we're trying to rank anything. We might just try to do some informative stuff to let you know people to look out for, things to look at. It just depends on how the wind blows for that day or what's going on at that point in time. We try to
Mhm.
be a very conscious show of what's going on in the world. I end this with this one message: be the one and not the two, because nobody can do you better than you do. For Megan and Clark, thank you all for watching, and we are out.